This is a dominant seventh chord. It has a very particular sound. Some people ask, is it a major or is it a minor chord? The answer is it's kind of both. There is a major triad in it initially, but the 7 in the dominant 7 is actually a minor 7 interval. So you get this kind of quirky mixture of major and minor sounds. So now the interval makeup of the chord fully is root note, major third, perfect fifth, minor 7. The three most important intervals in that chord are obviously the root, the major third, but the minor 7 especially. So it's not even the fifth. The fifth does not serve a super important role. You can almost think of it as a dominant triad. Now, why is that important? It's because of how it functions in a chord progression. More times than not, a dominant chord is strongest when it's played off of the fifth note in whatever key you're playing in. So, for example, if I wanted to resolve this in a very traditional way, this A dominant 7 would resolve to a D major. To be more specific, the minor 7th interval moves down by a half step, and it becomes now the major third interval of the 1 chord. And the major third of the A7 also moves up a half step and becomes the root note of the 1 chord. So that is why when you're playing a dominant 7th chord, you do not want to mess with that sound, because that sound is in the minor 7th and the major 3rd interval. But in theory, you can change the other intervals. For example, you can change the 5th. Sometimes it's going to sound a lot more tense, but it's not going to take away that initial skeleton of the sound. So you can flatten the 5th or you can sharpen the 5th. But as soon as you do that, it is referred to as an altered dominant chord. Those would be two examples of altered dominant chords. Now, they have tension, maybe the voicings for those chords don't sound all that great, but they're still considered dominant chords because what remained the same was the root, the minor 7th, and the major 3rd. What I changed about it was just the 5th. So that is what an altered dominant chord is. Now, let's address what a secondary dominant chord is. A secondary dominant chord is not the same thing. A secondary dominant chord is a chord found somewhere else besides the 5 chord. So that was an example of two different types of secondary dominant chords. The first example was the 5 chord, the way it would traditionally flow back to D major. But then I did a B dominant 7, and then I did a C sharp dominant 7. Those chords do not naturally live in the key of D major, so that's why you call them secondary dominant chords. But they still function the way the original primary dominant chord would. They should flow down a 5th to the next chord in the scale because of that strong pull, one more time, to the minor 7 and the major 3rd resolving to the tonic chord. So that has nothing to do with altering the dominant chord. I could alter the dominant chord, but I just used a traditional 1-3-5 flat 7 structure for those other dominant chords to highlight the difference. Secondary dominant chords have everything to do with the role that they play in the chord progression. It has nothing to do with the structure of the chord itself. The altered dominant chord is the term used to describe changing the interval structure of the chord.